What's up, you guys? Welcome to another Pauper deck tech. I've decided to continue this series because I can only hope that the Pauper format is continuing to grow, and it has got me excited. Now, this deck tech is going to be pretty cheap, around $35 to make this whole deck, including the sideboard. So chances are you probably already have a lot of these cards. They are quite common, literally common. It is a mono white Weenie variant that I think is pretty cool. There are a lot of good token producers among our sorceries. We only play 10 actual creature cards, but the rest of the deck is going to be good instants and sorceries that gets us a ton of little 1/1 tokens. And we also get a lot of good 1/1 flyers as well. Now, to start it off, I usually will go with a land base, so it's pretty simple. We play 3 Secluded Steps. The fact that you can cycle these away for just 1 white mana means that you get that card draw. Always nice if you could play the cycling lands in Pauper, because you don't always have the best cantrips, especially in mono white. And we do have 19 planes, so 22 lands in total. Hopefully that allows us to get up to our CMC4 cards. They're going to be a little bit harder to cast if we were to go with fewer lands. So let's go on to our creatures. We have 4 Selfless Cathars, we have 4 Soul Wardens, and 2 Suture Priests. Now, Selfless Cathar is pretty good, especially if we have a ton of tokens already out there. We can sacrifice him, and then all of our creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. So we can always threaten that extra bit of damage if our opponents want to start blocking. We can always sacrifice our Selfless Cathar, and then just pump everything up. This is very significant, especially later in the game, once we get our good flyers out there. Usually evasion trumps just about everything else in the format, because it is all about good basic mechanics of Magic the Gathering and Pauper, and a lot of decks just have a difficult time of dealing with flyers, so that's pretty cool. Soul Warden is just hilarious in any token deck, or any deck where you can get a lot of ETBs, because you're also going to get your opponent's creatures entering the battlefield as well. You're going to gain a ton of life. We do play 4 of them, because it's never a bad thing. This is a format where burn is quite viable, so staying in the game longer, making it difficult, making it a tougher climb for that type of deck is always a good thing. And Suture Priest is a good card, because going to act as Soul Warden for our creatures entering the battlefield, but it's also going to punish our opponents for their creatures entering the battlefield also. So every single point of damage matters. They're going to lose a life for each creature entering the battlefield under their control. So we don't necessarily have to deal lethal with our creatures. We just have to hope that in combination of this and our other creatures, we're going to deal lethal eventually. So pretty good creature combinations there. Then we go on to our good stuff here. We do have 1 enchantment in the whole deck, and that is Lumithread Field. Just a 2-mana enchantment that gives all of our creatures +0/+1. This is super effective because there are a lot of good cards in the format that just deal 1 damage to all creatures. We have Electrickery. Sometimes that's going to completely just screw over our deck, so a card like this would be good. I might actually add this into the sideboard. It's probably something I should do, because usually good sideboard options against this deck are going to straight up just kill it. So for future reference, I will probably add more into the deck, but just 1 for now seems to be enough. Also has the good morph, so you can get a 2/2 creature if you don't necessarily need the toughness boost. Our instants are pretty good. We play 4 of Raise the Alarm. Instant speed, you get 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens for just 2 mana. Super efficient, allows us to then play it instant speed, our opponent's end step, hopefully surprising them, putting them in an uncomfortable situation. That's always nice. We also play 4 copies of Borrowed Grace and Guardian's Pledge. Both of these are going to act in a similar way, although I honestly feel Guardian's Pledge is the better option. It just gives all of our white creatures +2/+2 until end of turn. All of our creatures are going to be white anyway, so might as well just give an Anthem. We don't always have the best Anthem effects, so we're going to settle for what we can get out of our instants to really pump up our creatures. The Escalate is nice. You do get the option, but I'd rather just give +2/+2 instead of having to pay 5 mana to do both. But it's still pretty good. If we want to threaten lethal, giving +2 power is never a bad thing if we have, a decent number of creatures on the field. We play Ramosian Rally, which if we do control a planes, super awesome. We could just tap an untapped creature we control instead of paying its mana cost, which is a hefty 4 mana in this type of deck. We don't want to have to do that. And all of our creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it's another one of those little pump effects. It is just +1/+1 because you can get insane cost reduction there. You don't have to pay any mana for it. And you give a little 1/1 Anthem until end of turn is awesome. So that's basically the Anthem package as far as our instants go. We do have some good sorceries. We have Gather the Townsfolk, which is basically Raise the Alarm at that sorcery speed. It only gives you 1/1 white human creature tokens, not soldiers, but it has Fateful Hour. If you have 5 or less life, you get to put 5 of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. So it has some late game value that Raise the Alarm doesn't have. It has the weakness of timing, only sorcery speed, but still pretty good. You get 2 for 2. Awesome. Battle Screech is where we start to get our better tokens. We get to put 2 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying into play. We also play 4 of that, because that's just a ton of tokens. And especially when we talk about flying, our opponent's creatures are more than likely going to have a tough matchup with that. And we could also flash it back by tapping 3 of our untapped white creatures, which is super easy and definitely going to be worth it when you consider that 4 mana is usually the top of the curve for this deck. We have 1 copy of Sen's Enlistment. We can put 2 1/1 white Kithkin soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Also has Retrace, so you know why it's 4 mana. It's a little bit more expensive because you can then replay it over and over again. By repaying the 4 mana and discarding a land, you can keep getting those 2 1/1 white Kithkin soldier creature tokens, which is a nice little engine in itself. We only play 1 because we can't really fill the deck with too many of these 4-costed spells. We're not going to be able to play them if we just fill our opening hand with them, so there's a downside. And the last card for our main deck is Triplicate Spirits. We play a full playset of this card too. It is awesome. 6 mana, but it has Convoke, so you don't really need to worry about it. You can basically just tap down 6 white creatures and have the whole mana cost paid for. You get 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. So it's basically like the Lingering Souls of Pauper. You get 3 1/1 white flyers, which is just insane to have to deal with, especially with our Anthem pump effects. Those are pretty cool. The Convoke just makes the card so much better, and it's one of the better cards, I would say, for this type of deck. So that's going to do it for the main board. The sideboard is a little bit more difficult. If I had to say a big weakness to this deck, it would be the inability to side properly. You don't always have the best ways of dealing with artifacts. You don't always have the best ways of dealing with some of the Delver-based decks in the format. You do have some good removal, though. We're going to start it off here with our 2 copies of Relic of Progenitus. Just good value. It's colorless. It can fit into just about every single sideboard, and it should, considering that Gurmag Angler is a presence in the format, and you want to make it harder for them to cast him, as well as just synergize with good graveyard strategies, because even in Pauper, those are still a thing. We play 4 copies of Journey to Nowhere because we don't play any in our main board. We want to focus on being just aggressive game 1, and then hopefully we don't really face any tough matchups as far as creatures go, but if we do, Journey to Nowhere is usually going to deal with the best creature. Exiles them, they're likely not going to get them back. Pretty good. We have 2 copies of Standard Bearer because it's pretty good. We have some good flyers in the deck. We don't want them to be targeted. We don't want them to be moved that way. So Standard Bearer basically just says, hey, your opponents have any sort of spell or ability that would ping one of our little good flyers. We can just have it ping Standard Bearer instead and basically just take all of that targeted removal because it has to target a flag bearer. So that's pretty good. Sundering Growth, we play 3 copies of this. Might actually put it up to 4 and maybe take out a Standard Bearer. It's not that good, but Sundering Growth is just awesome. 2 white mana to destroy target artifact or enchantment, and then we populate because we also play a ton of tokens. We get another token out of the deal. Hopefully it's another good flyer, and we have a way to deal with artifacts and enchantments, which I did in Affinity deck tech. Being able to destroy a land for just 2 mana is pretty nice. And there are some good Boggle-like strategies as well, so you might want to get rid of their enchantments. We do also have 2 copies of Suture Priest because, hey, you want to punish your opponents. Let's say they're also playing a good token deck. This is going to benefit us and hurt them at the same time. Not a bad idea at all. You don't necessarily want to play cards like Soul's Attendant because that's just more of the same. Soul Warden is good, but we only really need 4 copies of it, and our Suture Priest is going to do an even better job of also affecting our opponents, something that Soul Warden doesn't do. And then we do wrap it up by playing 2 copies of Holy Light, the card from the dark. Non-white creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. So it's going to act like Electrickery, but basically just for white creatures. And there are a lot of good token decks in the format. We have some Goblin token decks. We have Delvers earlier in the game that we want to deal with. This could really deal with a lot of creatures in the format, and sometimes we just have to settle for this as far as our sideboard goes. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the deck tech. Hope you enjoyed it. I really like white weenie decks. I think they're pretty cool. Definitely a lot of ways that you can pump up your creatures, especially the ones with evasion. Flying is always good in these smaller formats. It's all about good power and toughness, good keywords, and usually if you can get multiple different creatures out that share that, you should be golden. Overall though, I hope the deck isn't too expensive. I know you could probably make it for a lot cheaper. This is just the TCG player pricing. That also does include cards like Secluded Steppe and your obvious planes. It does include a lot of the cheaper cards that it does add up, so technically it is around $35, but you could definitely build it for a lot less. But anyway, feel free to leave any suggestions. I'm not entirely certain about this deck, especially when it comes to the sideboard. If we can find some better sideboard options, I will definitely update it then. But anyway, let me know if you like this series. I will definitely try to do more. I'm going to be releasing these around midnight, just because usually I release my other videos, my Commander videos, around 8. And I don't want these to necessarily take over my main videos that I like to do, at least not until Pauper becomes a more popular format and everyone starts playing it like they are with Commander. Then I will definitely try to put my main focus on the format. I will try to do at least one of these videos a week, and it's usually going to be a deck tech, but I might do top 10s for Pauper eventually. Hopefully that's something I would like to do. Let me know if you have any suggestions as far as Pauper content goes. I badly want this format to be as relevant as it can be, just as much as anyone else in the community. I think it is truly great that we can build decks for under $50 and still feel like we're playing Magic the Gathering. That's insane. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. Void here, signing off.